Okay, we're live. Just waiting to make sure everything is coming online here.
Just waiting to make sure everything is coming online here. Just waiting to make sure everything is coming online here. Just waiting to make sure everything is coming online.
There. Much better. Now, what do we got? Just getting started. So, we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm just basically talking to myself, which makes total sense. I do that a lot. Just send one quick message here. Now, one thing I do have to do is this. Copy that link. And we send it, where are we? To here. To one individual in particular. See if they join us. Okay. And then this last little thing. What do we got here? Oh, really should put that back where I can see it. Okay. What do we got here? Just sent the link on Skype. Okay. Bonus. Now, what time are we? Oh yeah, of course it doesn't go active for another. Yeah, it doesn't go active for another 10 minutes. Okay, so until then, much as I'm here, now I get to carry on and do things. Not the least of which is, let's see if, what do we got? We've got, okay, journey's done, it's posted, we are now live. What the heck is that supposed to say? I just love it when I make notes to myself and can't tell what the heck I wrote. It's terrible. I can't even read my own handwriting today. That really is terrible. Oh well, since I can't figure it out, I clearly am not going to get it done. In any event, where are we? Yeah, we'll see people lining up shortly, but let's see what it says here. If I take that and shrink it down, well, oh, it puts it way down there. Well, I don't want it way down there. What do we got here? Okay, got to figure out how to modify the view line. So, oh, there we are. Right there, I think. Yep, that did it. We got anybody lined up? Not yet, but that's not entirely surprising. That's all set to run, so we'll figure out how that goes. Oh, what do we got? Facebook. 2 comments. Okay, that's the second one, so it's going to be a toss-up. See who comes into the gate first. I've been on for 5 minutes. I left it a lot closer this time. So we'll just get a few things organized here and see if we can get something else up and running. That is what I really required. Because of the fact, where are we? This one. Okay. Let us open book 4 because, like I said, it was suggested that I copy. Oh, somebody's in the bin. It was suggested that I print out the hard copies. So just see what I actually have in book 4. It says here I've got 5 pages. 5 for book 4 of. Okay. Yeah, that's a very short print, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. And we'll just date the day we printed it out and be done with it. So we take that and we go, where is it? Not insert. Of course, we're not live yet, so that would cause that problem. Let us see what this says. Oh, I wonder if that means there's somebody in there with me or if it just means I'm the only one there. But in any event, let's see here. Okay. Gotta figure out how to print it. That should be it there. But that sure as heck ain't going to print if I don't push that button. There we go. Yeah, this should theoretically print it out the way I want it to. There we go. We have somebody in the bin. So we are going live in 5 minutes, and in that time, I should have this worked out, hopefully. What the heck? Hide the ribbon. Show tabs only. Click the tab to show the commands. And show tabs and commands. We'll see how this prints out. It's only 5 pages. Then we'll figure it out. So, let us see what happens if this comes out the way I desire it to. Show tabs and commands. Well, might just as well see what happens. Yes, I'm trying to print something for the first time. Well, actually, I think it's for the second time, but it's the first time I've seen this come up. Are we doing anything? Now, why is it not printing? This is really annoying. Well, what do we got? Wallet Moth, how are we doing? Glad to have you aboard. I'm just fighting with a printer trying to get it to do what it's supposed to, and frankly, that's not working that well. And I have no idea why not. Yeah, it says it's stacked copies, but I do not know why it's not doing anything. Oh, that might be the problem. Guess it helps if you hit the start button. Yeah, well, well, Wallet Moth, my interface is debatable. It's hard copy. It's hardwired. Of course, it's not doing anything it's supposed to, so I don't understand that. I don't know. I'm trying to get hard copies done. Tech and I do not get along at the best of times. No, I'm Ancient Tech. It doesn't actually work. Tech doesn't work for me all that well. So I'm going to end up having to fight with this for quite some time, it would seem. So I'm just not going to worry about it right now. Basically, what was suggested was with the Yldrbacian Chronicles that I'm writing, it was suggested because I nearly lost the whole load of them, that I print out the hard copy to make sure they don't go missing anywhere, and so I've at least got them all. Right. But I mean, we are talking a total of right now 1,500 pages that are written, which when you think about it is way too much. Now, today I was asked to do a couple of things. I'm just waiting for a couple more people before I get started with it. But the Yldrbacian Chronicles I've been working on, I'm writing all 12 books at the same time. 2 of them are actually already written. So, but I've got, well, if you take those to about 700, I've still got 800 pages plus of already soft copy writing. Oh, heavens no. I personally do not trust the cloud well enough to use it. I don't trust a lot of things though. I do, however, definitely I'm a little backwards. I don't put things on the cloud for a lot of reasons. Number one, I prefer to have a little bit more dominant control over what I'm up to. The problem is I know that most of the writing is out there anyway for the people that really want to get it. There's no way I'm stopping them. I just plain don't have the technical capacity for it. What happens for me is I get agitated with it and I will fry a computer system. Right. So right now, what I've got is I've got the soft copy on my hard drive. I've got a zip drive that's got backup copies. I've got it stored on somebody else's computer as well. But I know because I sent it via the internet that other people have access to it. What they don't have is access to the original writings. Okay, or the storyline. So from my standpoint, it's sort of an issue of trying to figure out how to function on this planet. Every time I get agitated, like, for instance, when I was trying to do the printing yesterday, when I tried saving the copies, it took me 4 days to get them copied over and get the right files copied over to the zip drive. Because what happened was I go, here's the file I desire. Let's copy it and let's save it as the same file name, but on a clear zip drive. The computer did not copy that disk, that program. It copied a different one. Now, part of the complication is that I had too many copies sitting around in the same area. Right. So it would copy a different file, a different page number, a different name for that matter. Right. And then it would cut part of the stuff out of the program. And I know that sounds weird, but I did finally get it done. So now I'm up and running again properly. But am I likely to rely on tech too much other than typing? No. I mean, you think about it. This is my hard copy for the newest volume that I'm working on. That's for the third book in the series. Right. So, I mean, I've got a lot going on, but with that in mind, where are we here? We should be coming online pretty quick. Numbers. There we are. Okay. Now, like I said, I usually give the first few minutes to wait, but I did mention last, we'll give it 5 minutes and then carry on while I wait for things to happen. There's, because I did say last week that I was going to bring up some of the painting information I've got, or some of the figures I work with. Oh, look at that. Now, if that is for me, well, then I'll have to deal with it, and I'll have to walk out of this, come back in a little bit. Is there a way to pause it? The answer is not that I'm aware of, so that's okay. Yeah, thank you very much. The funny part about it, while I'm off, is this particular book. I live in an apartment. I run my business out of an apartment. But this particular book was what we call lobby shopping. Somebody left it empty in the lobby for somebody else to get. I was the lucky one. Where's the other one? Just seeing if I can see where the other book went. And sure, I've got that covered, don't I? Nope, nothing behind it. Okay, so I don't know where the other book that I was working with is not currently visible. And wouldn't that make sense? If I seem a little scattered today, I probably am. But the way my writing works is I write hard copy here, then I move it to soft copy. Ultimately, yes. The neat part about it is I knew I was heading for the store to buy one, and I was running tight on money. But I desired a book that I could do my hard copy writing in. Because what I do is I leave here, I'll go down to one specific restaurant. Okay, and I did a video of one of the, okay, let's try that in English. When I'm writing, okay, I've got roughly 4,800 pages to write once it's all printed. I currently have, what is it now? 1,500 written. Okay. Now, the nice part about it is when I write from here. Okay. I started it when I was in grade 10. But I said last week I would bring out some figures that I've been working on. And it all ties together. I talk about everything being connected. Now, I don't think you can see them. No, not because of the way they're set up. Okay, depending on how old you are, you may remember the old CD cases, the old wooden CD blocks that you slid the CDs into. Well, this is a mushroom container that you get from the grocery store, obviously full of mushrooms, right? But I use these things when I'm painting. I use these, right? I just put a little bit of paint in them, just a drop or two, right? And of course, I don't use fancy paint. I am not a good artist by any functional stretch. So I work with these for holding the paint. And like I said, I work with toothpicks. Should have got the other ones. Where is it? There. I'm a bit of a pack rat, and I am clearing that sort of thing off. This little container that I put all my paintbrushes in, and these I go through like water. right? Because the unfortunate part is I don't know how to clear a paintbrush of acrylic paint. Because this stuff is acrylic. And it totally destroys paintbrushes. But I keep the paintbrushes there, and they're nothing fancy, right? And then I start with a figure like this. Okay. Now, this particular figure, okay, that is because I play Dungeons and Dragons, that's where I get these figures for. Okay. But this is also, not only is it a treant according to Dungeons and Dragons, but this is a perfect rendition of an Arborean. Okay. And they start off like that, and then add paint. Okay, now these are two obviously different forms, but what the heck? Okay, two different figures. But I end up painting them in as much detail as I can with either toothpicks or toothpicks or paintbrushes, depending. Okay, and I use those to help with the figures I'm working with. Carl, welcome aboard. Now, I've taken Dungeons and Dragons with the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, with this. This was written. It started off. This started off when I was in grade 10. I wrote the storyline for it. Okay, but it's a science fiction, science fantasy story. Okay, depending on who you talk to. Now, the neat part about it is when I wrote it, okay, now what's happened is I actually took, because I'm still an active gamer, I've been gaming, like playing Dungeons and Dragons and other games like that on the table since I was 13. Okay, and I'm averaging twice a week. That's even after all this time. There was a period where I was gaming 7 days a week, which was really interesting from that standpoint. Kara, glad you could make it. Yes, in all fairness, Walletmouth, it is. It is available on you can either get it on try English. It is available on Amazon. All of them, those here's what you get. Here's the difference between, well, on Amazon, okay, this is what you'll get. Okay. And then, from the end now, I've already got, that's book 1. Okay. This is book 1. It's available on Amazon. So is book 2, The End of an Epoch. And they pick up directly after each other. Like literally when I wrote these, I took the part of the last chapter of The Birth of the Wolfpack and used it for the prologue for The End of an Epoch. And I'm doing the same thing with Return to Paradise. Return to Paradise, I'm aiming at getting it done by the end of this year. I'm starting into the final edit of it now. It's about half written, but I'm starting into the edit of it this week to get it ready for print. Welcome aboard, Donna. Glad you could make it. Okay, now the other thing I do with the figures, okay, is each of the characters, if I can find a figure that fits, okay, this is in The Birth of the Wolfpack. Oh, that's what I meant to say. Every character in the Birth of the Wolfpack are based on either gaming characters that other gamers I've actively gamed with, okay, actually created. They're based on them. And if you look in the front of the book, in the front of The Birth of the Wolfpack, whoop, that's the end of an epoch. If you take a look at the front of the book when you get to it, it will tell you inside it. Where are we here? I've literally got a list by first name only of the people that I originally gamed with. Okay. So what I did was I took those stories. JCL, welcome aboard. I took those stories and put them together. And I'm going to go into much more detail on that. I'm just about to get into the other thing. But what I do with the figures is in the Birth of the Wolf Pack, the primary, because I'm a gamer and it's written with gamers in mind. So the first place I started was in a bar called Casey's Bar and Grill. Okay. And when I find a figure that fits, this particular little figure, okay, is not obviously finished painting yet, right? But this character represents Kathy, one of the lead waitresses in the bar. Okay. This one here, because I don't have the proper figures with firearms and what have you, I picked other ones that'll work. And there's a character in the Birth of the Wolf Pack, okay, by the name of Blade. This is representative of him. Okay, and again, he's not completed. But where are we? Right here. Oh. Now, according to Dungeons and Dragons, these guys are built. These are orcs. Okay. This will give you an idea of the size of orcs. Now, Blade is 6'6". Okay. And these are standard orcs. So you can see the difference. And of course, as you can tell, they're green skinned. Funny thing is, I had to make a modification when I wrote the Birth of the Wolf Pack. When I started writing that, okay, I wasn't about to use orcs, but I required a main protagonistic army, or not protagonistic, antagonistic army. These I'm using for Moldocs. Okay. And I've got a whole pile of different I've actually got about 500 different figures that I'm in the process of painting. Okay. Now, like I said, okay, we are 8:15, and I did mention, I'll get back to some of those later. I did mention, and this is the important part, really. I require Joe, welcome aboard. I require some sort of background to go with. Now, people have talked, so I'm going to deal with that. I was asked a while ago, and I forget who asked me, and frankly, I didn't write it down, but I was asked a while ago about the idea of life about a Tartarian lifetime. Now, if you take a look at where that name came from, back in Rome, they referred to hell as Tartarus. Okay, and I may be pronouncing it wrong at this point, but that's okay. You may know it as hell. Most of us are taught to fear hell. Yes, it absolutely is. Right now, it is 8:15. Currently, I've been up for about 3 hours. It's 8:15 a.m. where I am. Okay. From my standpoint, for me being up at 5 o'clock in the morning, the reason for that, and the reality of it is, where did I put it? Right there. Whoa, do not drop you. Okay, this neat little booklet. Again, every book, and most of what I talk about, I'm putting in print. Okay. So this particular little book, if you look below the videos, below the video, you'll find a list of books that you can get directly through me. Every one of the books that I print, that I do, and that I write, are available through me. Some are available on other venues, but I work with PayPal, and if you're in Canada, I do take direct deposit, right? But to get to PayPal, you work with Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca. Okay, to get through the PayPal. This little book is the backbone of how I turned my life from where it was to where it is. Now, people are taught from the get-go that, the funny thing there, Wallet Moth, is that part of the reason I do it at this hour, I started looking at Sunday night, but between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays is the only time that I'm clearly, consistently available. to actually do the live feed. So it was because of that I ended up sticking with the Saturday so I can get to the people on the other side of the world live. Wasn't working well trying to squeeze it in on Sunday night. And besides that, Spaced Out Radio, which I'm on once every Friday, the first Friday of every month. Okay, talking about off-worlders, ancient races, and what have you. Right. That they're on Sunday, and I just played on Sunday night. And I just did not feel like, really trying to compete on that end, so I just don't bother. But we're taught to fear everything, especially death. And people, they've been taught that you got to get all this material stuff together, get all this junk, because, it makes that's what life is all about. Well, here's the silly part. Okay. I was saying, when the Egyptians were around, I remember my lifetime with them. Actually, I remember a few lifetimes with them, but I'm one of the few that I know of that can remember a lot of my lifetimes. I haven't got the file up in front of me, but I think I've got either 18 or 20 documented. I appreciate that, Wallet Moth. I keep saying that wrong. That's Wallet Moth. Hopefully that's worked out well. Just a quick reminder to people, if you've got questions in here, absolutely put them all in all caps if you would be so kind. Okay. And if you're new to the area, there's also this neat little subscription button that I found in the bottom, that I've got in the bottom of the video here as well. We're taught to fear death. I've been dead so many times I gave up worrying about it. But I will tell you, I've spent some wonderful time there. We are taught to fear it, but the problem is you can get told everything, and this is why I'm actually able to say something about it. We're taught, fear death, collect all this stuff up, right? Because that's what makes life. Well, the problem is you can't take it with you. Okay, we know this for a fact because in ancient Egypt, they thought the same thing. Oh, let's take it all with us. We'll bury it in the tomb with us. Many times they buried their servants with them, so they would have them on the other side of the veil. Bad news, didn't work out all that well. Worked out worse for the slaves because the slaves weren't dead first in a lot of cases. So, I keep watching people come up with new ways of isolating each other, of separating yourselves into different groups. Now, here's how you end up, and here's the problem with the Tartarian life. It's not what you're being taught to fear. Okay. Oh. Okay, I'm not going to cover all of them, but Joe, here's the reality of it. I was born on time. I was not premature, but I was born mottled green and black. And ended up in the incubator. Now, I was told originally that, and do understand, my whole life it's more like science fiction than anything else. But I got I was put in the incubator. Now, rest assured, if people tell you that they are, if people tell you that birth is a wonderful experience, you can bet they do not know. They do not remember their birth. Okay, so I ended up in the incubator. A whole lot happened before that, but while I was in the incubator, I went, scrap this, I'm going home. Now, when you astral travel, you're taught about a silver umbilical cord that is used to keep your body alive, and is used to be able to find your body again, to get back to it. Well, I was way too early for that. So here I am in the incubator, and I went, no way, I'm done. I had no interest in coming back. So I left my body altogether. I didn't bother with an umbilical cord, and I just took off. Well, that was the day I ran into the Council of 12, where they turned around and said, you don't get the option of going. You have to go back. You've got a job to do. Now, the job I was sent here to do was to let people know, like to teach everyone in existence, or more to the point, to remind everyone in existence that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, so I flatlined, and the thing was, I was in the middle of talking to the Council of 12, and they turned around, while they're talking to me, the doctors working on my body, because I took off, I flatlined. And the doctors turned around, and they used real low setting, I'm suspecting. I felt an electrical shock. Okay. Apparently they used the paddles of some form. Now, I don't know the mechanics behind it, but I ended up back in my body alive. At 20 months old, I took a fever of 108.4 that flash fried the hypothalamus and the hippocampus, and physically destroyed the connection between the right side and the left side of my brain, between the right and left hemisphere. Net result, they didn't communicate with each other. It also meant that the doctors, when they did the testing after I healed from it, well, the fever I took was 108.4. It ran for 2 weeks. And yes, it killed me. Number 2. Okay. They brought me back. Okay. But there were complications. My brain no longer worked the way it was supposed to. So I ended up, they diagnosed me mentally retarded, which is understandable considering the electrodes they use for an EEG. One goes on this side, one goes on the other. There's a whole lot more, but they rely on the connectivity. And if there's no connection between the right and left hemisphere, you're looking at only the connection at the frontal lobe or in the cerebral cortex. The front and back. That was all there was. So, of course, they came up with, you're mentally retarded. Okay, that led me into a whole pile of things with the metaphysical world. Okay, and that's where I ended up being dumped into the MyLabs, the military laboratories. That didn't go all that well either. In the military laboratories, I was witness to 197 children, my friends, being murdered in front of my eyes. Okay, I didn't take it all that well. It went even worse. Okay, net result, I got literally terminated at 5 years old. At approximately 4:14 p.m. PST, on a military base. Now, it's a military base. Don't expect me to have proof for it. Not going to happen. But I got terminated, ended up being shipped to the morgue. Okay, a lot of things happened at that point, and we're not going to go into that. Okay, at least not this time. But I woke up in the morgue. I actually thought it was barracks. So I turned around, hopped off the bench, and left. And again, there was a bunch of other things that happened in between. But I ended up out in the lobby with mom and dad in each other's arms, and I hear the doctor clearly say, "I'm sorry, we lost him." Well, I'm only 5 years old. So I walked up, I pulled on Dad's leg, and I looked up at him, and I went, "Who'd you lose?" For me, it was just a simple issue. Okay, I wasn't dead. Well, they diagnosed me dead. Apparently, I didn't agree, so I left. Okay, that was number 3. Okay, now, I will tell you this. Okay, and this is for another day, but in the morgue, the reason I survived was I don't know how I got to the morgue, but before I got to the morgue was when I when I had my first head-on collision with the Srazosians. Reptilians are 7.5 to 8.5 feet in height. Whole lot of things happened. I ended up going from there, ending up in the morgue. That was my 3rd death. Okay, now, of course, when I had the fever, I also ended up developing epilepsy. Okay, at roughly 8 or 9, somewhere between 8 and 9 years old, I had a fatal seizure.
death number 4. Okay. That's 4 times before I was 10. Okay. Since then, and those were all restarted by doctors. Okay. They were started either by CPR or by defib, depending on who was available. Okay. After that, I drowned once. I overdosed once. I ended up I had a sonic shutdown. I got caught in a sonic blast from a speaker. That funny little music called death metal. Okay. That literally stopped my heart cold. Okay. I died because of temperature shock, got hit by too cold of water twice. Both times my heart stopped. I don't go into water fights. This is a bad idea for me. Okay. So you see what I mean by I ended up dead more often than I care to count? Okay. Now, the one thing that you're told when you die, you're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell. Some of you believe that you end up in a box or in a hole in the ground and you just straight decay. Okay. Ultimately, Kara, yes. The job I was literally sent back to do was to remind people, I was sent here to remind everyone in existence, meaning humans, off-worlders, plants, animals, ancient races, even the planet itself, because bear in mind, Earth itself is a Caboran. Okay, that we are all the same. Okay, and people are finding new and exciting ways to isolate themselves to say, "Oh, I'm different than you are," and then they wonder why the off-worlders won't show themselves. Well, I mean, let's face it. Humans get hung up on the idea that you've got black skin, or you've got white skin, or you've got yellow skin, or whatever. Picture what happens if we have a 7.5, 8.5 foot reptilian wandering around. And here's the neat thing. The other thing I did with the Yldrbac Chronicles I was talking about is this one here. Okay. This will be like, if you look at this cover, this guy here, that's Jeremiah. He is the main protagonist. Okay. But this here is the Strazazi. Now, you can tell by the height of him, these are big people. Now, picture if you see somebody like that walking down the street. And yes, these guys end up in hell too, and I'll get to that in a minute. Okay. But here is a normal handheld weapon of theirs. See that little mace? A medieval mace, if you know anything about medieval weaponry, okay, if you know anything about medieval weaponry, a mace is basically 2 to 3 pounds of metal. That thing, as you can see, is a lot bigger. And this is just a normal melee sidearm. So, from that standpoint, like I ended up, okay, let's back that up half a second. When you're looking at hell, and we're taught by the religious community to fear hell, because you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. Well, it's a cute thought. It's a great selling point. But I will tell you, okay, you get down there, it is not what you're told. I mean, it does have the fire, the torture, all of that. And the Daemons, Daemons are an interesting group. Okay, and let's see, I should have brought these over. I didn't get everything I should have. Where are we? Daemons. D-A. And watch this. Oh, there we are. Like I said, I told someone I would have figures out. Malu, welcome aboard. I've got little figures that are interesting. These are different renditions of Daemons. Okay. And again, these are all D&D, so they're only approximations in all fairness. But you get little guys. These guys are all over the place. But here's the kicker to it. You're taught to fear it. You're going to go to hell. If you're evil, if you're a sinner. And here's the funny thing: karmic law. The karmic law is this: be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Oh heavens! Yeah, Kara. The Thrazazians were the people that actually saved my life when humans decided that murdering me was a really good idea. As I tell people, I've been murdered. It didn't take too well. It didn't take well. Net result. That's how I ended up in the morgue. But the Thrazazians, I've dealt with Thrazazians, Drakes, Tormenon, the Kamalians, the Teklek. I believe they're called the Talon. There's a number of them, and of course, my memory for names. This is part of why I write it all down. Okay, I had the list at one point here, but I got a little sidetracked. But the chap on the front of this cover, like the front of the end of an epoch, that is, well, I literally used a good friend of mine's name. And the reason I could use his name, because every character in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, well, you might think so, but here's the trade-off. Wallet Moth is asking if I owe them a debt. We kind of balanced it, but we've got a working relationship that works out really nicely. The thing with that debt is about 10 years ago, another human I knew and myself ended up on a Thrazazian battle cruiser because they called for help because their battle cruiser, they actually had two of them caught in the gravitational pull of a black hole. Now, a black hole is not a nice place to get caught in, but due to their rules, due to their philosophy, they were more than willing to let two full battle cruisers drift into the hold and end up dying. So I told them flat out, and this is where my mouth can get me in trouble. I told their matriarch and patriarch, these guys are very much onto the respect side of things. Okay, very much onto them. And the reality of it from their standpoint is, you just respect everybody, your place. Well, they called me in for help, and I looked at them and I said, we need to go in and get them. We can't go in and get them. They're dead. They're going to die. I said, look, if you're that much of a coward that you're going to let your own people die because you don't want to go out there and pull them out, then I'm going. Right? You called me for help, put me out there, get me out there, I'll get them back. And that was literally what we did. So, yeah, the fact they saved my life, I kind of did a balance point on it. There's a lot I've dealt with, and this is why I talk about the Thrazazians like they're good friends. Really, they are. Okay, I'm just not known for being subtle with them. Now, the neat part about the whole thing, when you look at this one, where are we? This one, and I've shown many of you guys this. Okay, this is simply a reference manual. It has 59 of the races I've personally dealt with. Okay, and I mentioned the Moldocs. I've got an artist actually doing it. This is what the Moldocs look like. Okay, nice people, eh? Now, picture, if you will, we worry about people that are black, white, taller, shorter, whatever, right? Can you picture what you'd think if this was walking down the street? Okay, and these guys, you get to see them in hell too. But here's the neat part. We're taught that you're supposed to fear hell. Okay, you're going to die, you're going to be tortured forever. And, the neat part about it is you're all going to die. That's just the way it is. Now, I see, Malu, I absolutely agree with you that, we're sinners in as much as. Now, here's the bottom line of how you sin. Break one of the 3 karmic laws. Now, if you take a look, for those of you that read the Bible, okay, I was raised a Christian. Do I believe in God? Do I believe in Christ? The whole 9 yards? Absolutely. But I will tell you, the 10 Commandments are not the original. I can't prove this one, by the way. They are not the original commandments. The original commandments that were on the tablets that Moses brought down, there were 3 of them. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Okay. If you're going to sin, break one of those. Now, each one of those 3 karmic laws is equally important, but compare those to the 10 Commandments. Okay. Or to your belief structure, whatever it is. Okay. Whether it's, Hindu, Sikh, doesn't matter. Okay. Any one of them. Even I've looked into many of the mainstreams, including the Cree belief, the Church of Satan. Take a look at any of the laws you follow, including your social laws. Like, as in, you're not allowed to drink and drive, which, by the way, it's absolutely stupid to drink and drive, but what the heck? Compare every law and compare them to those 3 that I follow. And what you'll find, in my belief, I've never seen a variation on it. What you'll find is that they all fit inside those 3. Now, the advantage I have, in my opinion, is I only have to remember 3. And so here's what happens. You die, and they tried in ancient Egypt to take their stuff with them. So they buried a whole pile of stuff with them, going, when I get to the other side, I'm rich, I'm powerful, I've got more money than everybody else, so I'm taking my stuff with me. Well, here's proof positive for you. You're not taking the physical stuff with you. The Egyptians thought it was a great idea. They buried a lot of their stuff. They died. They passed away. They're gone. Their stuff is still here. You're leaving everything materially behind you. Okay. You're just not getting to bring it. Okay. That's just the way it's going to go. So when you die, now they did get a couple of things right. Okay. The belief structure that most people have. Oh, absolutely. Wall them off. Everybody talks about grays, and they're all gray. No, they're not. I have seen, I believe, 15 or 16 different skin colors and minor modifications to skeletal configuration. Just like humans, they have different skin colors, they have different background, different environmental factors, but they're still all referred to as grays. The off-worlders and the ancient races refer to people regardless of your skin color or configuration. You're still human. Okay, they either refer to you as human or you're referred to as a Solarian. Okay, meaning you happen to be a member. Now you happen to be a member of the race of people that live on what they call Soul 4. Okay, so we're taught all these different things about where you're going to go. Okay, now here's the thing. Everybody goes to the same place. You all end up there. The one thing humans did get right about it, well, the 2 things. 1, you do suffer everything, everything you did in life, you will get flashed before your eyes. All in an instant. At least, technically, it's an instant. It's going to feel like forever and a day. But what happens is everything you did, if it's negative, if you're breaking, like I said, sinning boils down to breaking one of those laws. Okay. Or another way to put it is go against your own belief structure. And have your belief structure whatever you desire. Okay, but those 3 laws are really where the backbone comes in. Now, when you die, you will get that go through. But here's the kicker. You're going to experience everything based on what you did to other people. So if you're a bully, okay, let's say you start off your childhood as a bully, as many people do. We're taught to do that, which is the stupid part. That's where parents for centuries have failed. Well, they succeeded at it. They taught people how to do it. If you're a physical bully and you spent your childhood, early teenage years, or even your adulthood, beating the daylights out of people, shooting people, whatever it is, if you're a violent offender, as it were, every single physical impact that you gave, you get to feel that impact all back to back. This is why some people, when they die, they look like they've been drugged through a knothole backwards. And I mean the ones that die in their sleep. Obviously, the people that die by hitting a concrete wall at 80 miles an hour, they don't exactly look great. Okay, so you do go through that. The other thing you go through is you will meet some of your loved ones, whether they are plants. Like I've got a friend of mine, and unfortunately, when I had the stroke, he died. Okay, he was a croton, a plant. And I know full well he's waiting for me on the other side. He was the one that really made it clear to me that I could understand what plants were talking about. Because I remember with Gordon, right? I've got my coffee, and as you know, I like my coffee, right? So I grab my coffee. I'm walking by. I just got the plant, and all of a sudden I get this. Where's my coffee? I'm looking around. There's nobody else in my house. And he says, I said, pardon? He said, where's my coffee? What coffee? And it took a little bit of a conversation, but eventually I figured out he was talking. So I had cold coffee and I poured a little into his soil. And all you got was this absolute relief, relief. It's like, it's been way too long. Now, where he came from, I don't know. I don't know what he was before. Okay. But if you've got a pet, if you've got a pet that you feel is that you're really attached to and they've unfortunately passed away, they may well meet you on the other side. When you get over, there are people there to meet you. That is correct. But, you end up there. Now, some of you think you're going to hell because you've been miserable people. Okay, here's what they really screwed up on in many belief structures. Thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Well, if that were the case, this planet would be a barren wasteland and would be nothing but rubble. Given the fact that just taking me, for example, I'm a role player. Okay, I play Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, and, I used to be told I was a sinner because of that. Because picture playing Dungeons and Dragons in a Bible Belt. Like, that's going to go over really well. So you get told you're going to hell. Well, hell is a wonderful place. It does exist. All the fire, all the brimstone, all the torture. Okay. The first time I went down there, I didn't understand it. So, yeah, I knew I was going to hell because I've been told that was where I was going. I was just that much of a problem. I questioned the Bible when I was 6 in kindergarten. I questioned the teachings of the Bible. Okay. Yes, I did eventually. I ended up becoming a Sunday school teacher. So I even taught about the Bible, but I could never, ever recite passages and tell you where to find it. Except now I can actually tell you where to find the information on the Ten Commandments, on the tablets. But when I was teaching it, I couldn't. So I knew I was going to hell. Okay. Because my mouth has gone into gear my entire life. Now, I got down there and I got drugged and tossed into the river Styx, where I was supposed to burn for all eternity because of how bad I was. This is what had been drilled into my head. Okay, I knew that's where I was going. Well, of course, the first time I go down to hell. Oh, haven't quite got the complete question there, Wallet Mouth. Right now, all you've got is, so how does heaven and hell, how they work is this. You go down there. They do have the thing. I got thrown in. But what you'll find happen is people go, okay, I'm in the river. I'm burning. This is not good. So you struggle to get out. And all the pictures depict the Daemons pushing you back in. Right. The astral plane is not heaven and hell. The astral plane is another vibratory rate of the third dimension. Okay. But picture with the astral plane, what you end up with is when you physically leave your body, it's like getting out of a vehicle. Okay. When you've got a car, you drive around, do what you will, but sooner or later that car will die. You get out of the, or even if it doesn't die, you drive around for a while, you get out of the car, you can go places the car won't go. Okay. And so what happens when you astral travel is you get out of your physical body and you can now go places that your physical body won't go. Primarily because you've been taught that you can't. Okay. But the astral plane is simply another vibratory rate of the third dimension. And in all fairness, there is an astral plane on the first, second, all the way from the 1st to the 12th. But you get down there, when you get into the river, they start trying, you start trying to get out because trust me, their hot tubs are way too flaming hot. Okay, so you try getting out, you keep getting pushed in. And this is why I say death is comical as heck for me. Okay. Good morning, Raven. Welcome aboard. When you get pushed and you keep trying to get out, people keep pushing you back in, which is a wonderful thing in one sense. Okay, they keep doing it. But you get to a point eventually, and I know I did. Eventually I went, somebody pushed me back in. It's like, knock it off. I'm trying to get out. Well, the guy that was pushing me in all of a sudden stopped pushing. Right. So needless to say, I climbed out of the river. And then it confused me. Of course, I've been told they don't stop for anything. Okay. So I looked at the guy and I says, I thought you were supposed to keep pushing us back in. So he pushes me back in again. He goes, oh, okay. And I go, well, this gets to be real redundant, and I don't know how long it took me to figure it out. Okay. But eventually I got to the point, where I got out of the river. I finally realized it's like, wait a minute, if I tell them to stop pushing me, then they'll stop pushing me, which is fantastic. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I can tell you all this because when you die, the one thing you're going to forget is how to get out of heaven and hell and how to get back down here. Because here is where you learn to have the physical experience with limited senses in the third dimension. That's what your job is here. You're here to remember who you are, okay, and what you're capable of. Now, the Christian religion teaches you that God is in everyone, that man was made in God's image. Well, the reality is God doesn't actually have a physical form. He does not look human. Okay. The humans think it, the Srazazians think it, the Daemons think it. God is made in God, man or whichever race is made in God's image. They all take their image and go, this is God's image. It's not. Okay, God's image is way beyond that. Now, the neat little, well, thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate it. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Becoming a Catholic priest wouldn't work. I did, however, become a minister. Okay. I was baptized Roman Catholic, was raised broadband Protestant, became very agnostic, then became a minister, and about well, long before that, I'd already had, well, way back when I was 5, when I was born, I had my first run-in with the Council of 12, and I've had a couple of conversations with God himself. And yes, I know that sounds like I'm a flaming lunatic. Flaming, certainly. Been to hell, great place to hang out. Way too hot for the hot tubs. But I eventually got to the point where I was out of the river. Then the torturing started. And they toss you on the bench. And they tie you down. They pull your innards out in the whole 9 yards. Just like you've been told in all the horror stories, in a lot of the religions, you get tortured because you're a sinner. And that does happen. Okay. And you'll lay there, and who knows how long it's going to take you to figure this out. But you lay there screaming as they're doing this until at some point you get enough clarity and you go, knock it off, or whatever version you want to tell them to stop. Okay. And they'll stop pulling you out and pulling you apart. And then, of course, you heal real quick anyway. Right. But you're trapped on the bed until you figure it out, until you go, I'm here by choice. Now, what I did at that point, okay, I figured out, okay, now I'm able to stop them from torturing me. Then I turned around and did the worst thing that many of you would think possible. I was annoyed. So now I'm going to retaliate. Okay, you take that with you, that whole because that's part of the core you. You are your belief structure. Okay, you're the one in control of it. You can decide whether or not you're going to follow somebody. Like there are people that will tell you that they are Christ returned and they're here to lead you to a better world. Money is evil, so give me all your money and come out into the middle of nowhere. And, I've got a fenced compound where I've got lots of guns to lead you to a better world. Guns, I got nothing against them. Okay. I've got absolutely nothing against them. I mean, realistically, take a gun, set it on the table, and don't touch it. Just walk away. That thing is not going anywhere. It's not going to shoot anybody. The gun isn't the problem. But when people are saying, I'm a spiritual guide from a long time ago, right? I'm here to lead you to a better world. Give me all your money. I've got guns and armor and what have you. That won't protect you. Okay. This is what will keep you on the straight and narrow. Your heart. Okay. Now, the neat part about it is what I did was I got retaliatory. Because you take that with you. That anger is still there. Both the anger and the love. Okay. Both of them are still very... Ultimately, I'm just looking back through this, and Milo, you're basically right. It feels very much like a panic attack. Suffer from those too. Heart attacks are a lot of fun. Not. But I ended up going, okay, these people have been torturing me for I don't know how long. Time is a funny thing. Okay, so I was there for a while. And I did exactly the same sort of thing. The people would come down, you grab them, you throw them in the river, and you'd push them in. And every time you got in, there's a time when you're doing things really well. Okay. When you take a look at it, the more violent you are, the better off the better you are at torturing people. You do move up in ranks and you get the authority to torture the torturers, as it were, because they may be, it may be a case of they're being too mild on somebody. Okay. Well, think of it this way, Joe. You're not a good Catholic. I asked a guy, I got in trouble for this one. Can't imagine why. But I was raised broadband Protestant. Basically, it boils down to the same thing. Still Christian. It's just that, I don't follow all of the odds and ends. I don't follow a lot of them. But this one guy he was a hardcore Catholic. He was always pounding the Bible at me. And he looks at me and goes, I'm a practicing Catholic. And I couldn't resist. Well, I probably could have. I just didn't bother. I looked at him and I said, what is your problem? He goes, what do you mean? I says, every other religion. I'm Protestant, that's a Jew, and that's a Jewish person. He's Muslim. You're a practicing Catholic. What are you not getting that you still aren't, and that you still haven't figured it out? Okay. From my standpoint, I just looked at it and went, when you're practicing, you haven't figured it out. I noticed, Joe, that you said that you are Catholic. You're not a practicing Catholic, you're a Catholic. Okay, you've apparently figured it out. Okay, and I could go into a whole lot of discrepancies in the Bible. I'm just not dealing with it right now. Okay, but then I remember my life 2,000 years ago. Actually, I had about 6 of them that were back to back. Some really good times, some really bad times. But I learned how in hell, how to torture. Worked out really well. Because by the time I got to the Spanish Inquisition, I became an inquisitor, both in the Spanish Inquisition and during the witch hunts. Okay. In both of those cases, I became an inquisitor. Okay, I became the one that tortured people, and I got really good at it. Okay, yeah, I know. You go back to hell for that. But I went back to hell and got accolades for being there because I was such a dip. Up here, they call it really wrong. It's, Wallet Moth, it's really sad that you actually, I'm glad you weren't touched, but it's really sad that you actually had to point that out. Okay. I was an altar boy I was a student. I was an altar boy. I was in the choir, right? I was a teacher, the whole 9 yards. I still am. I just don't do it in the traditional fashion, right? But I got so good at the torture side of it that I kept getting ranked up, right? And my last conversation, people talk about Satan being the root, being the evil thing, but we have to remember, God created everything and everyone. Guess who created Satan? Okay. The reality is Satan runs hell, absolutely, but that was his job. Yes, he was cast down there, but the original term cast meant sent. Okay. And saying Satan is a title. Okay. It's kind of funny, and yes, I know it goes against a lot of what people are taught. And do understand, I'm not here to prove it one way or the other. Thank you for clarifying that, Wallamoth. From my standpoint, I remember living in England years ago, not this lifetime. That was fun time. But when I was in hell, eventually I got to the point, I got very good at the torture side of it. And eventually I'm like, gee, I wonder. Because the gates of hell are guarded. And yes, as the Romans discovered, I think it was the Romans, Cerberus does sit there at the gates of hell. Nice pup. But I'll tell you, if you think it's rough trying to pet one dog's head, if you have 3 dogs, that's great. They're coming from all different angles. Cerberus likes to have his chin scratched, but he wants his chin scratched on all heads at the same time, which is an interesting trick if you've only got 2 arms. So I went, gee, I wonder. And I walked towards the gates. And yes, Cerberus did stand up, did growl, and yeah, I watched him eat a few people. Of course, the funny part about it was people think that's what he's going to do. So he obliges. And what I ended up doing was, I'm approaching, he's growling at me, and I held up my hand this way. And he put his growling head on my hand. Okay, so I just did this sort of thing, and I walked past him. And I walked out, and I'm like, okay, I walked out of hell. That was when I found out that you can actually come and go from hell all you want. It's a great place to have a party. I still say the hot tubs are way too freaking hot. Okay. Well, it was set up by Henry VIII. You are right there, Wallamoth. But here's a little piece of information that usually isn't included in what people are taught. The going thought with that was that he wanted a divorce, and the Catholic Church wouldn't let him have it, which is why they called it the Protestant. He wanted a divorce, so he says, "Fine, I'm building my own church, my own religion, and we're going to be able to have a divorce." Right. But that wasn't the backbone of it. The other side of that was that at that point in history, when somebody died without a will, when they died without a will or without an heir, the church got all of that land. And King Henry went, the church is still going to get it, but my church is going to get all of that land. All of that property. It's going to come to me. I will, people have done that to me. They've sat down quite regularly. I don't call it confession. I just call it talking. But I've had people turn around and ask me whether or not, and tell me what they've done and gone, "I'm going to go to hell." And I'm like, probably, because that is what you believe you're going to do. This is not a preordained destination that you're going there. Except if you go, "I'm going to hell," you're going to hell. The problem is that getting it through your head here is the key. If you don't get it through your head here, you're going to end up in hell. And you're going to end up, oh yeah, they did. But there was a way, Raven says, the church got the land if you were a witch as well. Funny thing with that is I tried a life as a witch. Okay, that didn't go over all that well. Of course, by then I'd already been in hell, so when I got down there, being the witch that I was, I walked in and it's like, okay, well, I've been here. It became kind of a revolving door. I walk into hell after another death, and the devils at the door would look at me and go, "You're back?" I'll just pass them through. I'd be there for a little while, and then I'd wander off. And heaven works the same way, just not so many fires. Okay. Henry VIII was actually really nice. Henry VII couldn't get a divorce, so he decapitated his wife. I'm thinking this was rude, but, what the heck. But no, I got to the point that hell became a revolving door. Well, I'm dead. I might as well go down there and meet a few old friends. But the thing is, when you die, you forget everything you were told here. Okay, except that one last thing. I'm going to hell, and that's why so many people are afraid of it. I'm not afraid of dying. I certainly don't fear hell. Okay, but I don't have a lot of, I'm not looking forward to the way of dying. Now, if everything works well, my father I know died in his sleep. I think my father died in his sleep. I know my mother did, my grandmother did, and my two older brothers all died in their sleep. So the odds are pretty good if we look at genetics. And mine are screwy anyway, that I'll end up dying in my sleep. But, you almost get to him because of the number of times I've been over there. I'm almost on a first name basis with these guys if I can remember what their names were. You get back down there and, I'm heading back to hell. It's like, I thought you learned your lesson. Oh, yeah, but I got friends down there that haven't figured it out. I want to go down and talk to them. Right. And, the funny part is you can tell people that this is all it's going to take. Okay. You can tell people in life, you can go, this is what you've got to do. And this is what I'm here to strive to help people understand. Regardless of where you come from, regardless of how you got to where you are, we are all in exactly this same place. We're all in exactly the same place. We are right here, right now, and this is the only thing in time that you can change anything. Okay, one of the biggest things, ultimately you are correct, Carl. predictive programming is basic. That's why they call it programs. When in 1956, when television came out, they called it the idiot box. And I saw a post on Facebook the other day showed from the 60s, 3 kids leaned over the hood of a car, and it says, "This is how the kids in the 60s spent their afternoons." And these 3 guys were leaned over the car and working on the car. And then it shows below it, shows a post that shows 3 kids about the same age, older teenagers or young 20s, sitting there playing video games. And it says, and these ones can't even change a tire. Now, I'm a bit of an oddball to start with. I couldn't change a tire before. Right. But you get there, you can tell people what you will. You can believe what you will. I'm not here to prove it to anybody. It's taken me a long time to accept what I came back here to do. Okay. And, I've always been told, you're going to hell. Well, probably. I mean, I remember walking through the park one day. I walked through the park one day, and I'm hearing this priest tear a strip off a teenager. Right. And he's a priest because he's got that wonderful attire. And I'm hearing him tear a strip off her. And this young teenager, I mean, from my standpoint, too young to do it, but that's my personal belief. Lots of tattoos on her, lots of piercings. Okay. But, and of course her hair was blue, and her hair was a different color. I don't know if it was blue or green, but point being, this priest was tearing a strip off her. And she turns around, and he turns around, and he says, "You're the spawn of Satan." And that caught my attention. I stopped cold because she's almost in tears. And I just stopped, and I walked over to him, and I looked at her. I ignored him. I looked at her, and I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know we were related. My apologies. I'd have said hi sooner." And of course, she's looking at me a little confused. He goes, "What do you mean you're related?" I says, "Well, since I've been called the devil himself, that makes her my daughter." Right. And he turns around and he says, "Well, you're the devil?" I says, "Yeah." So he says, "Well, what do you mean?" I says, "That means she's my daughter by your definition, and leave my kid alone." Well, the guy turned around and ran away. And then she looks at me and she goes, "Why did you do that?" I says, "Well, you were not equipped to deal with him. And he was a bit of a doorknob. And the fact he had a priest robe on and he's trying to tell you that you're going to hell." Okay, first of all, clearly the man was not educated. Don't get me wrong, he was taught to say what he was taught to say, and I cannot blame his teachers. They've been doing that for 2,000 years. Okay, so I said, "Look, yeah, you've got piercings, you've got tattoos. Who cares? What you look like is not the issue. What you treat people like is the issue." I told my own kids, I will not support you getting a tattoo or a piercing when, until you are 18. At that point, do what you will, because I really don't care. Okay, Angels are Life, welcome aboard. I learned this, because when we were in hell, when I was down in hell, we had paupers, we had millionaires, we had, absolute geniuses. We had, even Einstein himself spent some time in hell. Okay. Mind you, he was real quick to figure out the rules. Okay, and I'm betting dollars to donuts that Stephen Hawking's went down. I haven't been down to check. But you're only there until you figure out that you've got the right. Remember that thing about freedom of free will and freedom of choice? It applies in heaven and hell. Okay, you do go through all that. You are caught by your own guilt, because as long as you're still blaming yourself for doing things that broke karmic law, that is very much the case, Malu. We are family. Everyone is so much more connected. And this is something else about these. Okay. When you look at the Yldrbacian Chronicles, Now I'm working on the Return to Paradise, but the one that'll become that one I'm aiming at for the end of this year. The next one coming out I'll be aiming at for the end of the following year. And in Where It All Began, which is really the beginning of the whole 9 yards. Long story on how that came about. But in that one, I start going into the detail on how really all connected we are. How soulmates work, how soulmates, twin flames, soul families, how it all comes together. Because we are literally all connected. Okay. But I mean, in hell, I've seen people that they come across as really nice. There's so many priests that go, I'm going to heaven. And I asked a Jewish priestess one day, because they've got this weird idea. 144,000 are going to be raised into heaven, right, and held at God's hand. And I'm like, I asked the priest one day, I says, let me ask you something. How do you figure out which one of you is going? Because there's more than 144,000 people in 144,000, Jewish people in Vancouver, in New York, in any of the major cities. On their own, there's more than 144,000. So how do you figure it out? But we got people from every religion, from every belief structure. The fact that you're heterosexual does not put you in better shape than if you're gay. Okay. The fact that you're a priest does not buy you a ticket to heaven. Okay. And all the money in the world won't pay your way either way. By the way, you can have as much money as you desire. Having a whole pile of it won't put you in hell either. Okay. But I will tell you won't take it with you. Okay. I appreciate that, Wallet Moth. The neat little part about it is, I look at this whole trip here on Earth. People are looking for heaven on Earth. Well, guess what? Make it. Okay. And what I mean by make it, Malu, the answer to that, the Birth of the Wolf Pack and the End of an Epoch are both available through authorhouse.com, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Indigo, and Chapters, as well as they can all be ordered directly through me. I'll show you the difference here. Okay. And I do keep them in stock for that reason. I keep grabbing the wrong one. Okay. This is the one that you end up with, and it's all the same print inside. Okay. That's the one that you end up with if it's ordered directly through me. And the price is all listed at it's listed below this video. Those are taxes and shipping included in the continental US and Canada, which is something I've got to change there to make it clear. But that's the one if you buy it through me directly. And because they do a different format, it's a little different in size. Okay. This is the one that you'd get through Amazon. Now, here's the difference. Okay, the two big differences. One, size is a little off. On the back, okay, you'll see the picture is the same as well, except that Amazon puts one with a black border. Okay, but here was the thing I did with it. When we take a look at the End of an Epoch, okay, let's just make sure I can do that right. It goes this way. When you put the books together, okay, they line up to create an overall mural. All 12 books are part of the same mural. Okay. The other difference is if you're ordering directly from me, I will sign them. Otherwise, bring them with you if you ever come to meet me, which I do meet people. Okay. The nice part about it from, where it comes to the books, a lot of the experiences, the attitudes of the different races I've dealt with, where I can put them in, apply. But hell is not a place for the poor people. It's not a place for the people that have tattoos. There are some people with phenomenal tattoo artwork that end up going straight into heaven because they've spent the majority of their life, and that doesn't mean all of their life. Okay, if you were a bully when you were a child and spend the rest of your life, spend your adult years trying to help people or successfully helping people. Okay, when you do that, what ends up happening is it balances the scales. Okay, so when you come into it's funny because you get in there and there is a neat little place called Purgatory. Elaine, welcome aboard. There is a neat little place called Purgatory. That's where everybody goes. Okay, and you're standing down there, and people are coming out of the shadows, and they're coming out in droves. Because let's face it, it's not just humans coming in. Okay, it's everybody goes there. Okay, there's even some of the non-corporeal. Well, the non-corporeals go there as well. So it's a crowded little place. But you're always getting people going. They walk in here and they go, and I did it myself. I walked into the station to start with, and I'm like, I thought I was supposed to go to hell, right? And somebody in the crowd all of a sudden pipes up and goes, downstairs on the right. Okay, so I went downstairs on the right and got tossed into the river Styx. I'm thinking, this is not fun. And I went over how I got out of it. Okay, but people do it all the time. Okay, I remember witnessing one guy. He got down there. He walks into the great big, what amounts to a gala, because that's where all the plans are made for what you're doing in your next life. Okay, and you turn around, and this guy comes in and he goes, but I thought I was supposed to rot in a coffin. Oh, coffins are down the end of the hall. You'll find them all there. Pick one. So the guy walks down there, climbs into a coffin, and there's a lot of people doing the same thing. He climbs into a coffin, he lays down. He lays there for about 5 minutes. Right. And all of a sudden he sits up and goes, wait a minute. I got into I climbed into this coffin. So he gets back out of it. Okay. The neat little part about it, it really turned out like I ended up with verbal confirmation from a person in the physical world that we had connected everything all together. Okay. Yeah, a little bit of an interesting situation there, Elaine. It's not, from what I've seen, it's not so much the veils are that the walls are getting thinner. It's that people are getting more aware of it, and therefore there is more energy available to bridge that gap. Okay, to bridge the veil. But the thing is, when you go through that veil, most people forget about the life before. Oh, no, I appreciate the update, Malu. It makes sense that they would eventually get there. Okay. I mean, it's been going on for centuries, and I can't blame the governments. Well, I could, but why bother? Okay. The reality is they're being taught the same thing, but as I said earlier, picture, if you will. Now, many people, and I don't have a picture of one just yet, many people would think this was a demon. This is not a demon. This is a Muldock. Okay. These guys, if you've ever seen the ships that look like a Colosseum, Muldockian generation ship. Okay. But picture somebody like that walking down the street. And this is why humans have not revealed the entire existence of it. Now understand, in hell, there are what look like larvae with human faces. Okay. There really are. There are some really weird looking people there. Now, humans get fearful of a human that is 7 feet tall. Picture a non-human that is upwards of 15. You take a look at your Anunnaki. They are giants. They are anywhere up to 25, 30 feet tall. Now this is going to make people edgy. Okay. This is why it has not been completely revealed. That and the fact that what happens if all these ancient races and all these off-worlders show up, okay, and all of a sudden they're here, the damage that would be done to the entire civilization structure, religious belief, the religious belief structure, this whole evolutionary structure, mankind was built on Earth. Okay, like it started off here. Okay, not quite. The thing we have to remember is Adam and Eve were the two that were focused on. They weren't the only two. Okay, the neat part about it is there is no difference. You get half the reason. Of course, somebody out there is probably asking, well, why would you go back to hell? Well, because the people in hell and the people in heaven and the people laying down in the coffins, I leave them asleep. Right, wait until they wake up. Until then, they're pretty boring. Right. It's a great place. If you ever need a nap while you're in the party, go down, pick a coffin, use it for a day or two. It's no real big problem. But from my standpoint, it boils down to I've got a lot of people I know that have done some pretty horrendous things. Many of my good friends this lifetime ended up in hell because they were violent witches. I ended up burning them. Okay. Because at the time I was a warlock. I was a witch that worked for the government. Okay. And yeah, I tried the witch thing working against the government. That didn't work out all that well. Right. I'll tell you, even that hurt. But nothing compared to the fires in hell. So, when we take a look at that, all of these people are exactly the same. Okay. And, the funny thing there, Elaine, is there are actually, Arboreans are alive today. I saw a video the other day. Well, they've been alive for ages. Arboreans are plants. From human standpoint, they look like trees. Somebody showed a video caught on a wasn't on a satellite, it was caught on a drone, by a drone. And it showed this whole copse of trees moving back and forth. Everything around them was stable. But this whole copse was swinging back and forth, and there was one tree that was going like this. And it wasn't that it was just swaying. It was like you could see the whole thing running through the forest. And then it'd run back. Right. These guys do move. If you go into, I believe it's Borneo, there are things called walking trees. Okay, and they have been proven to migrate, several, and they only travel inches at a time, but they have been proven to uproot and move feet along the way. It takes them forever and a day. But then look at a human when they get older and their legs start to falter. They don't move as fast. That is exactly why, Elaine. Okay, they are communicating with you. If anybody takes your hands and puts them about a quarter inch apart, okay, and yeah, my measurement is just pathetic, but okay, about a quarter inch apart, you'll feel something between your hands. That is your life energy. Everything that has life has that energy. Be it a person, an animal, an off-worlder, an ancient race, a plant, a rock, it doesn't matter. Okay, they all carry energy. Okay, and they all communicate. It's just you have to remember that you're able to do it. But we're taught you can't. No, all trees do not do that. Most trees just stand there. Most trees are just trees. Okay, they are the oxygen providers for Earth. Although algae produces more of it. Most trees, if you've got a tree, it's a tree. You don't have to worry about cutting down a tree. You ever try and cut down an arboreal, you'll know it. You put an axe into the base of an arboreal, and it's likely to slap you. And then you're going to sit there on the ground going, what the heck just happened? Arboreans are not, and they are not every plant, every tree, every tree is not necessarily, okay. Greetings, Wendy. How we doing? Welcome aboard. Every plant, every animal does not have access to the higher communication lines. Just like some humans are not born with the ability to physically see or to think clearly. They just are. There are different levels, but none of them are worth less than the next person. Okay. So, people talk about, like I heard somebody, it was priceless. I was going through the grocery store, and this woman don't know what made her say it, but she goes, all hunting should be banned. And, nobody should hunt animals. They should all buy their meat from grocery stores where no animals are killed. Okay. And I mean, from my standpoint, I looked at the woman, I went, novel thought. I'm thinking, yeah, definitely animals are not killed in the grocery stores. But for those of you that are hunters, I actually wish I knew one in the neighborhood. I like fresh meat. I like wild meat better than I like cattle. But, I can't go hunting. Which is really neat when you think, in hell, I walk in, when I go to hell, and I go there, I don't go there often right now. I mean, I've been back there a couple of times, but I can get there. The neat part about it is I get down there and it's just like going in and you talk to a bunch of old friends. Hey guys, how about if we get together when you get back to Earth? Track me down. This is where I currently am. Let me know. We'll get something set up, and next lifetime we'll see about connecting. Okay, because it's in that what they call purgatory that the so-called contract is signed. The funny part about it is you're not signing a contract that God says this is what you have to do. It's a contract that says this is the wisdom I desire to gain when I come back to Earth. But that wisdom is determined, how you get it is determined by your actions. Okay. It's the only, it's determined by your actions. The obvious example is, let's say you came to Earth to experience cancer. Okay. And you set everything up so that you could gain the wisdom around cancer. Your actions and the connections you make will determine whether you actually develop cancer or whether you work with people that are dealing with cancer. Okay, same thing with AIDS, same thing with COVID. It was all set up ahead of time, not by human designation. Okay, this goes way beyond human designation. Yeah, wallet moth, don't worry about it. Like I said, trees on the whole are trees. Okay, yes, they all can communicate, absolutely. But then every follicle of your hair can communicate. Okay, like when I talk about feeling the energy between your hands, I can actually feel the energy at the end of my hair. Now, clearly, I don't have a pulse in my hair. Otherwise, getting a haircut would be a real messy job. Never mind the hair. Okay, if you're a hunter, if you're a forester, these are the things that we require. People are, like it or not, people are an omnivorous animal. How we doing, Lawrence? People are omnivorous. They require meat. They require vegetables. Now, these people that go, oh, don't eat meat. I often sit there going, you're going to have a problem. I knew somebody that was vegan, and I explained the point of the problem to her, and we got her turned around, got her eating meat. Her energy levels went up, her stamina climbed, her strength climbed. It's because she was putting the right food into her body. And don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against people that choose to have a vegan, a vegan outline, a vegan lifestyle. Knock yourself out. I don't look down on people that have tattoos. Okay. I love tattoo work. As a matter of fact, this shirt I'm wearing, right, that says Sweet Marie, this is the last I know. She's actually in the MMA. She's getting into the MMA. Okay. She's got some phenomenal artwork. Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is they won't eat meat, but they'll wear leather. This is just something Elaine's adding. I'd lay odds most vegans will also eat Jello, which is really neat because it's a meat byproduct. Jello, from what I gather, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but from what I understand, Jello is made from, Jello is made from bone. Okay, don't ask me how they do it. I am not that way inclined. It's absolutely bizarre. But by the way, never confuse a vegan with a vegan. A vegan is an off-world race that is absolutely brutal. Okay. Oh, thank you, Elaine. Vegans have no pain center at all. So they don't use anesthetic, and when they do abduct people, and we end up and vegans are a lot of fun. When you get a vegan in hell, here's the neat part. In the physical world, vegans do not have a pain center. In hell, you can get at it because it still exists. There's just no relay marker for it. Okay, not in the physical world. The funny thing, Carl, they call it a mystery, but here's the thing. Every from my understanding and from the research I've done, and when I talk about research, I'm talking research over millennia. Okay, actually way longer than that. Okay, and on many different worlds. Cancer it already exists in every organism. It is a cleanup organism. Problem is that something triggers it. In this part, I don't know, but something triggers it to, something triggers cancer to go into overdrive, and then attacks everything. But can cancer be beaten? Absolutely. Specifically, my former father-in-law, he came down with, and I forget what the actual name was, but it was small cell rapid spreading cancer, lung cancer. They gave him a 20% chance of surviving at all and a 5% chance of recovering. Well, the reality is, at the time, my eldest son was actually in utero. And his grandfather had ended up in the hospital with this cancer. And my mother-in-law, my ex-wife, at the time she was my wife, she had told my mother-in-law that I didn't play by the rules, right? And that maybe I could do something. So my mother-in-law comes to me and goes, look, I will answer that in just half a second, Angels Are Life. And she goes, look, I don't feel like burying my husband yet. I really don't desire to lose him. But she says, is there anything you can do? I says, I'm not going to guarantee it. I'll do what I can. So I went in after everybody went home. I went in. My wife waited for me in the lobby with her mom. And I went in and worked on her father. On my father-in-law. Right. The following morning, he had actually dropped into a coma. Right. He had actually dropped into a coma. He'd been there for 6 weeks. And the family had been called in and said, look, say goodbye. So I went in and worked on him after he left. Now, I did not heal him. All I did, I'm an accelerated healer. And all I did was remind his body that it had the ability to recover. Well, the following morning, I worked on him for an hour and a half, 2 hours. The following morning, he sat up in bed, clear as a bell. And he goes, I'm hungry. The only thing he lost was he didn't know he'd been in a coma for 6 weeks. Right. Well, he did eventually die. He came out of it 17 years later. He died of old age. Okay. So can cancer be turned around? Yes. The biggest mistake that doctors make is they go, you've got cancer, you're going to die. Well, I will guarantee you are going to die. Absolutely. Every one of you will. Doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter who you pray to, you're going to die. Okay. It's a real wonderful thing. You will die. You've got that in common. No matter how much money you've got, no matter how you treat people, you're still going to die. Okay. Now, Angels of Life, you would ask something here. It is called biotech, or at least that's what I've always called it. Okay. Depending on what they are, the Egyptians actually had technology where they could operate on the internal organs without breaking the skin. Okay. What the off-worlders use most of the time is they simply accelerate the cellular rebuilding and the cellular replication. So when they're closing a wound, right, they simply accelerate the cell replication. They accelerate the cell replication to get it to naturally close. This is why you don't find scars. Okay. They do the same thing when they're removing an illness. And once in a while you get somebody that will, but most of the time they don't. Oh, okay. So you've done way more research on this than I have, Elaine. My research has been life experience. It's just that my life, when we take a look at past lives and we take a look at memory, and somebody sent me a question the other day on the Akashic records. Okay, those track the life of the soul. Okay, not of the body. So they tell what the driver is actually doing. Okay, and that mine just date back a very long time. I mean, I remember things from way back. Well, I remember when Earth was built. Okay. And this is one of the things, when I built the story with the saga for the Yldrbacian Chronicles. Okay. The original story is actually in the back of every one of those books. Okay. And what I did with it was I combined the whole 9 yards, and I am going through explaining it. Absolutely, Walletmoth. The reality of it is this. Sonic stimulation works to accelerate your body. Now, it doesn't matter what and do understand, when I talk about helping yourself heal, I am not talking about tell the doctors to go away. I ignore doctors myself. Okay, but that's me. Okay, mind you, I'm quite happy it was a doctor that repaired my arm when I snapped it. But when I talk about putting your hands together like this, and you feel that energy, focus on one word, heal. You don't have to know what's wrong with you. You don't have to understand how you got to the mess you're in. Okay, you simply have to realize your body's not working exactly the way you desire it to, but your body has a perfect blueprint for healing. And this is one of the neat things about in hell. You remember how to heal. So of course, they cut your stomach open. As soon as they stop, it heals back up. It's extremely accelerated. In my case, I happen to have brought a bunch of it with me. Okay. See, the neat part about it. See, I tried a different one there, Elaine. When I was somewhere between 8 and 9, I stopped my seizures by actually having a fatal one. Not a good method. Okay. You've got that capacity to heal. And all of it can be shifted. But yes, sonics work, magnetics work, electrical frequencies work. It all works. But I like the way it was put in the show Doctor Strange, when they explained that the MRI, the nerve pictures, reflexology, chakras, they're all bits of the same thing. Well, here's a newsflash for you. Christianity, Hinduism, the Muslim faith, the Sikh faith, the Cree belief, the Church of Satan, all have part of the understanding. Okay. All of it it's all interconnected. Okay. Now you can build the energy field that you can feel. Okay. I suggest you start real close because it's easier. Okay. I can feel it across the room, but I need somebody else because my arms only go so far. Okay. But it's all reparable. What you're up against, though, and this is why people on the whole don't fly. Okay. Because you're fighting not only your will and your belief, but you're also fighting society's belief. Point in fact, this funny little item here, most people are going to tell you that's solid. Okay. I'm going to tell you it's not. And if you look at basic physics, I think it's physics, it's not. There is space between the molecules. Okay. So and I do not do this, not yet. Okay. I used to, but I don't now. Okay. But if you get your mindset right, you'll be able to pass through a solid object. Problem is that you've got to believe you can do it, and you've got to believe you can do it more strongly than everybody that believes you can't do it. This is going to sound like a really bizarre concept to you all at Moth. Okay. Where you say one of your customers has dementia and she's coping more with everyday life. I'm going to suggest you drop this in her lap. Keep her on whatever she's doing. But just suggest to her to forget that she has dementia. Okay. And I know that sounds completely backwards. But if she forgets she's got dementia, because everybody looks at her and says, you've got dementia. Yes, she's got some complications, certainly. But if she forgets she does it and that she doesn't have and that she has it, what will happen is her body will, and again, this method of putting her hands together and getting her to simply concentrate on the word heal. This is in conjunction with whatever you're doing medically for her. Okay. But is it curable? In my opinion, yes. And that will go ahead. No, I'm not medically trained. Okay. Absolutely. The funny thing there, and that brings up a different topic there. Elaine, you said what you wear has an effect. There's a belief structure that what you wear makes the man, like the clothing makes the man or makes the woman. This is categorically wrong. And the way you know this is because if the clothing made the person, right, then everybody in the military would act exactly the same way. Everybody in a law office would act the same way. And everybody in a private school that uses uniforms would behave identically. They don't. However, the clothing that you wear, part of it is physical. Part of it is because of the way it makes you feel. Okay. And people will react differently to different clothes styles. Angels of Life, you were asking, what are your thoughts on humans who have so much ET biological tech in them and they are donors at death, organs, but how would that ET tech affect the prospective recipient? The neat part about that, okay, first and foremost, you got way more. It doesn't matter who the recipient is. There are very few true cyborgs here. Well, I mean, myself, I'm a cyborg, but not from off-world. Doesn't matter how much ET you have, you still have more human and biological component. This is obvious because the person still holds that biological. Okay, but that tech, how would that ET tech affect a prospective recipient? They take that into consideration. Now look at what's there, and they modify the configuration on a base level. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Carol. I'm glad you made it. You have yourself a great day. The nice part about it, the shrink I spent 20 years with, his wife used to study radionics. It was through that we found out the physical configuration of the way my brain is working. Okay. I mean, all in all, we have to take a look. Yeah, and that's an excellent idea. I mean, all of it. The reality is, today's world is an interesting setup. Okay, and I decided to do today's talk on Time in Hell. I've avoided it for a long time because of one little detail. There are so many people and so many religions that will take a look at it and go, "Oh, you're blaspheming." Absolutely, I am. I like to teach, according to what you've been taught. But I love this one T-shirt that I saw. It says, "There's a place in hell for people like me. They call it the throne." Now, I've got no interest in the throne. Okay, I mean, quite frankly, the thing is uncomfortable. Okay, it's way too hard. Just not a lot of fun. Okay. I was actually asked one day there, Wallet Moth. I was asked by a lady. I was explaining I was explaining the oscillator densification of the tri-transformational equilarity, aka the star drive used for interstellar travel. And I got asked how much education I actually had. Well, here's the reality of it. I graduated from grade 12. Being diagnosed mentally retarded, I confused them and graduated on the honor roll. But I managed to successfully fail college. I've never been back. Although I did actually take a course in bartending. I forgot most of what that was at this point, but that was back in 1986. So we're looking at almost 40 years ago I took that. The neat part about it is I grew up in the Bible Belt, been to heaven, been to hell. I tried out the coffin thing, not this lifetime, okay, but I've tried it out in different lifetime. Well, I guess this lifetime I did. Remember going to purgatory and everybody was heading for the coffins. I'm like, what's down there? Oh, that's where people think they live. They think they have to be. Wonder what it feels like. So, I went down and laid in one for a little while. And the neat thing about it is people are taught to fear all of it. Okay. Fear doesn't do you a whole lot of good. I mean, it is a necessary component. It's fear that stops you from falling, that stops most kids from falling down the stairs. Because, I don't like the way that lack of air works. So they pull back. Fear is when you get taught, don't put your hands in the flames. Or don't put your hands on the red burner. Right? But where parents are still making a miscalculation is they teach people, they're teaching their kids, they're teaching their employees to fear doing something wrong. And it really is necessary to start looking at it going, minimize the negative, maximize the positive. When I was in hell, when I was torturing people, I didn't get taught to fear doing the job. Okay. I got taught to be proud of how well I was progressing. Okay. Although they came to fear me pretty much, and like some of them did, because I come in and go, "You're giving him a break. Why are you giving him a break?" "Well, I think he's been through enough." "Great. Well, toss you back in and wipe your mind out so that you forget how to get out of the river and you can start over." Right. And I mean, it works out very simply. but you have to take to heart the way you treat other people is what's going to happen. And that is very true, Elaine. The other thing that Christ never said was he never said get dizzy. Okay. I mean, I could go into all sorts of things about where the Bible has gone sideways, but he did say turn the other cheek. On the other hand, I remember he was also a carpenter and he liked his wine. So he was not above conflict. And yes, I know that's talking about that. We're talking the Son of God. He was perfect. Bad news. No, he wasn't. There is not a soul in existence. Well, there is one. Actually, he's not even perfect. There isn't a soul in existence. I'm bad English, really poor English. In existence. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you get taught fear the punishment. I mean, how many kids do you know where the parents are told, and where the parents tell the kids, you just wait till dad gets home. It instills fear on the parent coming home. Okay. You get told fear going to hell. Me, I look at it going, it's great. They've got beautiful saunas. I mean, the saunas are nice. The hot tubs, way too hot. Okay. And yes, I know that sounds like I'm being sacrilegious, but when you walked around in some of these places, even heaven is not quite the way that we're told. People are looking all over the place for the Garden of Eden. Okay. You want to find the Garden of Eden, it's not over where Mesopotamia used to be. Well, it is. But look at your feet. That's where you can make heaven on earth. Your call. How you treat people, how you treat the planet around you. This is one of the things that Satan was sent down for, was to teach people how to follow their word. Everybody seems to agree, that Satan does not lie. Okay, he doesn't. He will twist the daylights out of things, and she will also quite readily turn around and use a loophole. You leave a loophole in a contract, if you find a loophole, absolutely jump on the thing. There is nothing wrong with it. There is no sin involved. Okay. But what Satan was sent down here for? When we talk about her being cast out, way back the term cast meant sent. Okay. Oh, not a problem, Raven. If you don't believe in hell, you won't go there. Okay. If you believe in hell, that works. If you believe in heaven, that works. You believe you die and that you lay in the ground until your body just rots, you've got a place there for it as well. It all exists. Okay. The reality of it is you don't have to believe. You don't have to believe in it. Did the garden, Wallet Moth is asking, did the Garden of Eden have the tree aliens in it? Sorry, can't remember the name. Oh, you're referring to Arborians. And yes, they were there. Although Arborians aren't in truth an alien race. They evolved here. They are some of the Arborian race are some of Esau's eldest children. Now, do understand, Esau is who you would know as Gaia, or Mother Earth, or Mother Nature. Okay. Esau is simply the name she told me to call her. Okay. And like I've told people, I've been called many things over the years. Okay. And some of them are repeatable in polite company. Now, I haven't... I like the way you put that, Raven. Raven goes, I was raised Catholic, but later I later recovered. Yeah, I could get into that topic, but I mean, talk about a complicated setup. But that being said, we are winding down here. I've really enjoyed having you all here. I haven't decided what the topic is for next week. Okay. I've got a list of them that I'm looking at, and I just check them off as I cover them. Right. Religion is one that I have thought about tangling with. But I'll tell you, it's a different outlook on it. Of course, I've got a different outlook on most things. Okay. But again, I would love to hear and read your comments in the comments below. If you've got personal questions that you don't desire the rest of the world to know about, below this video, there's a whole list of ways of getting a hold of me. Okay. All the books I've got written that are actually in print. Where do we go? In a nutshell, Raven, they go the same place as everybody else. When your pets die, they too will end up in what most people call purgatory. They end up in that mixing pot where everybody goes. So your pets, most of them will likely still be there when you get there. The average turnaround time from death to rebirth or to reincarnation is 70 years, 70 years. Okay, so you will end up getting to see them again. Now the neat part about it, something that we do have to make absolutely clear. I don't research things. What I talk about is very seldom do I research anyway. What I am referring to is things I've learned, things I've gone through from a personal experience. Okay, now on that note, I'm going to bring this to a close because we're at we are way over it. But oh well, so be it. Can't do much about that. Oh, we are not way over it. That says 2:11, but we got about a minute left here. The easiest way to get a hold of me, take a look at the bottom of these videos. There's a whole list of ways. I do my best to respond. Okay. Any of the books that are listed in that list below this video, you'll find them listed. They are all in stock in my hands. The only two that can be acquired through Amazon right now are the Yldrbac Chronicles, Birth of the Wolfpack, and The End of an Epoch. Those two are available there now. Okay. But I've got them here as well. Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to bid you all a good day. I've got a lot of things I've got to deal with. You've got a lot of things you've got to deal with. I would love to see your comments below. Absolutely drop me a line. Let me know if you've got questions. Ask away. I will do my best to answer. Okay. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.